Hello, welcome to Gus Strategy and Tactics, and thank you to our subscribers. In this series, we play through the 16 operations of the German Grand Campaign in Close Combat 3, the Russian Front. Please remember to subscribe, comment, and like the video. And if you want to show your support with a donation, the links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. It is day 4 of 10 on Operation 2 of 16. Battle Briefing. Battle for the Kremlin. You've driven your command to the walls of the Kremlin. Your objective is to get inside and crush the Bolshevists once and for all. Your command is still attached to the 19th Panzer Division. Additional reinforcements are limited, although you should be able to refit most, if not all, of your units. The Kremlin walls have only 2 breaches, and the enemy is sure to have them covered. You'll either have to force your way in, or draw the enemy out, but destroying any armour will be key to winning this battle. Be careful with any armour you have. Enemy infantry with firebombs positioned in buildings can destroy your panzers from above. The low trees inside the walls might offer some concealment, but move with caution. Many positions offer excellent fields of fire. Moving your infantry through buildings will help to negate the enemy's armour. You have come too far to fail now. Take the Kremlin. We start the operation with the same forces from the last battle, but they are exhausted. Von McDowell, Command Sonderkraftfahrzeug 250-10, Light Infantry, Schützen 1941, Machine Gun Infantry, Maschinengewehr 34 Early War, Medium Tank, Panzer 4D, Medium Assault Gun, Sturmgeschütz 40C, Light Tank, Panzer 35T, damaged. Heavy Anti-Tank Gun, 8.8cm Flak 36. Anti-Tank Gun, 5cm Pak 35-36. Anti-Tank Carrier, Sonderkraftfahrzeug 251-10 with a 3.7cm Pak. Another Anti-Tank Carrier. And a medium mortar 8cm Granatwerfer. First things first, let's refit some of these teams. We can repair or upgrade the Panzer 35T. Light Tank Panzer 38T, check. This light tank relies on speed. Its 3.7cm gun lacks punch. It has more armour than the Panzer 35T, but is still vulnerable to tanks and all anti-tank weapons. Use the Panzer 38T for infantry support, reconnaissance, counterattacks, or mobile defence. It is equipped with MG37T bow, 3.7cm L48T, MG37T coax, and 4 Walter P38 pistols for the crew. We can also upgrade the 5cm Panzerabwehrkanone. Heavy Anti-Tank Gun, 8.8cm Flak 36. Position this 8.8cm gun with a clear field of fire. Use this gun primarily against tanks and vehicles. Use it against other targets when opportunities occur. Keep a supporting infantry or machine gun team nearby for protection. It is equipped with 8.8cm flak, 7 Mauser rifles, and 5 hand grenades. And that is Kampfgruppe McDowell. Let's examine the terrain and develop a plan. North is to the top of the map. The Kremlin is a sprawling area of buildings and wooded parks. I've marked 6 areas moving west to east. Number 1, the church and square. Other than cover from direct and indirect fire, the church does not offer any immediate tactical advantage. The open square does not provide any cover or concealment, but overlooks the 2 breaches in the walls. Number 2, the Kremlin walls. Unsurprisingly, these walls provide enormous defensive advantages. They block observation and direct fire into the position, limit movement, and provide observation and covered firing points to defenders. Towers, at intervals along the walls, offer additional cover and concealment. Other than the Spassky Gate, there are 2 breaches in the walls, one to the west, the other to the northwest. Number 3. The grounds of the Kremlin. The woods provide partial concealment, but occasional fields of fire into the open ground and buildings beyond. Importantly, the woods screen movement along the walls from the buildings. Number 4. The Spassky Gate, the Presidium, and the Square. The gate offers a rather obvious entry point into the Kremlin. The gatehouse provides cover, concealment, and an elevated observation point. Movement through the gate is under observation and fire from the Presidium. The Square offers long fields of fire but no cover or concealment. Number 5. The buildings southeast of the Square, including the Senate Building and the Arsenal. In relation to the gate and breaches in the walls, this area can provide covered firing locations for infantry and hiding places for tanks and mortars. Number 6. The buildings east of the Square, including the Ivan Bell Tower, the Patriarch's Palace, and Terem Palace. This is very complex defensive terrain. The Bell Tower offers excellent observation over the entire area, and clearing the maze of corridors and rooms in the surrounding buildings would be tough. Both breaches in the wall are key terrain as they allow the Germans entry points into the complex. Decisive terrain is the Square, or more precisely, the buildings around the Square. Control of these buildings controls movement around and access to the rest of the complex. Whoever controls the Square controls the complex. The 2 most obvious avenues of approach are through the breaches in the wall or through Spassky Gate into the Presidium. I assess the enemy will fight tenaciously to defend this area and will bring to bear all the armour, artillery and infantry at their disposal. The Kremlin walls have only 2 breaches, and the briefing tells us the enemy is sure to have them covered. Also, that enemy infantry with firebombs positioned in buildings can destroy your panzers from above. So, the enemy's first course of action is strictly defensive. Russian armour will stay to the east and southeast and use long lines of fire to prevent German forces from advancing over open ground. And Russian infantry will stay in the buildings, taking advantage of their cover and concealment and emerging only to strike before withdrawing into the maze of corridors. This course of action makes the most sense from a military perspective. The enemy's second course of action is to counterattack and push German forces out of the Kremlin. Armour will advance en masse to dominate the Square and then move into the wooded areas to destroy German armour and plug the breaches in the Kremlin walls. Infantry will move through the buildings and seek out contact with German forces to pin them until the tanks can overrun them. This course of action makes the most sense from a political perspective. The briefing hints that the Germans can draw out Russian forces. So, the Germans could use the breaches as engagement areas. The Germans could position anti-tank guns and armour to get flanking shots on Russian tanks as they move through the breaches. But I cannot be certain that the Russians will leave the safety of the Kremlin walls. The Russians win by keeping the Germans out, rather than by defeating German forces. And von McDowell may only have one shot at victory. So, we need to force our way in, and be prepared for a Russian armoured counterattack in strength. We do not have good command of the ground, but have to make do with what we have. The anti-tank guns will form the centre of the German line. They will blunt any Russian armoured counterattack and defend the breaches. On the German right flank to the south, infantry will carefully probe forward from the Spassky Gate tower to gather information on Russian locations. On the German left flank, armour will advance along the walls to the north to find and turn the flanks of the Russian defences. Tanks will go first, followed by half-tracks to exploit success. They will be concealed by a smoke barrage to hide them from Russians to the south. Conduct of the attack. The Germans learned at heavy cost the futility of charging a hostile anti-tank defence with tank concentrations, and of engaging in tank versus tank combat without having superiority in range and armament. Unbelievable. Von McDowell pauses to survey the scene around him. His Kampfgruppe is at the very gates of the Kremlin. Stalin has reportedly fled shortly after a speech warning of German panzers only 12.5 miles away. Von McDowell stands in the back of his half-track and takes some photos of the iconic walls, onion-domed churches and palace buildings. But his eyes now see defensive works, firing points, and ambush positions. And he can hear Russian tank engines behind the walls. He puts the camera away and prepares to give his orders. I have now moved my troops into position and will execute the plan in real time. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the various courses of action and if you've identified a viable alternative. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more great strategy and tactics content. And so we begin. No immediate sign of the Russians. Von McDowell radio checks the armoured units. The infantry move into the Spassky Gate. Still no sign of the Russians. Contact. Small arms fire rings out. There are Russians in the Presidium. Russian heavy mortar rounds start to land on Spassky Gate. Achtung, Panzer! A T-34 in the square, moving north. Neither gun has the shot. The first 8.8cm pack has line of sight. Hit! The first round knocks out the T-34, which starts to burn. The 3 crew members run away from the burning tank. Heavy mortar fire shifts to the 8.8cm gun, and the crew take cover. Another tank in the square, range about 150 metres, probably a KV-1A. Both tanks have line of sight. Hit! Another hit. And another. A fourth. The fifth round does the trick. The KV-1A is hit and starts to burn. It says something about the armour on the KV-1A that it took 5 high-velocity 8.8cm rounds to knock it out. The gun crews go to ground. The infantry are still exchanging shots with Russian infantry around the Presidium. So far, the gatehouse is providing excellent cover from the Russian 120mm mortar rounds. The Russians are identified as an anti-tank rifle squad. Luckily, nowhere near the tanks. No sign of other Russian forces. Perhaps this is it.
Противник предложил прекращение огня.
Time then for the armoured attack on the left flank. First, the mortar lays down a smoke barrage. Another tank in front of the Patriarch's Palace, a KV-2. The 8.8cm gun has a line of fire. Hit! The KV-2 is destroyed by a flanking shot and starts burning. The mortar smoke barrage is starting to build.
Находимся под огнем!
The German armour moves forward. The Panzer IV-D, the Stug, and the Panzer 38T. Another tank, a BT-7M. No line of sight from the anti-tank guns. The BT-7M fires at the Spassky Gate.
Противник предложил прекращение огня.
The smoke barrage is built up and provides an effective screen for the armoured movement. The BT-7M withdraws east. Perhaps it has seen the burning wrecks of a T-34, KV-1A and KV-2. Good choice. The Russians are manually handling a 120mm mortar in front of the Patriarch's Palace. Both anti-tank gunners line up their sights. The mortar is swiftly destroyed. The crew die with their mortar. The armour now executes a fishhook north of the Terran Palace. They will use the cover of the buildings to get into the rear or flank of the Russian position. Meanwhile, the BT-7M surveys a sorrowful scene.
Противник предложил прекращение огня. Мы пропали!
The Panzer IV-D puts machine gun fire into troops in the Patriarch's palace.
Truppe umgruppiert.
The German infantry now prepare to probe forward. The machine gun sets up covering fire. Obergefreiter Kleese's rifle squad has suffered 2 casualties.
Я больше не могу!
The Panzer IV creeps forward. Cannon fire from west of the Ivan Bell Tower.
Противник предложил прекращение огня.
The mortar opens fire.
Truppe umgruppiert. Ефрейтор!
Kleese's squad now moves into the Presidium under cover of machine gun fire.
Укрытие!
The Russian command team is caught in the open and destroyed. Kleese's infantry are now in the Presidium.
Stellungswechsel ausgeführt.
They go firm as the machine gun moves to join them. The infantry want eyes on the square.
Truppe umgruppiert. Stellung eingenommen. Противник предложил прекращение огня.
The BT-7M remains a threat, but out of the line of fire of the anti-tank guns.
Truppe umgruppiert.
Schubert and Gantz remained injured and unconscious at Spassky Gate, their wounds dressed by their comrades. The armour moves up.
Stellung eingenommen.
The machine gun in place, Kleese's infantry now move forward. Russians in the open. The machine gun engages.
Противник предложил прекращение огня. Truppe umgruppiert.
The Stug and Panzer IV-D creep forward. The Panzer 38T covers their rear.
Stellung eingenommen. Stellungswechsel ausgeführt. Truppe umgruppiert.
Achtung, Panzer! Another KV.
Seine Panzerung ist zu stark.
The Panzer IV withdraws. The Stug has the shot.
Keine klare Schusslinie.
The Stug has no clear line of fire. The Stug gets the first shot. No effect.
Gebiet gesichert.
It does not get a second and is knocked out by the KV.
Nicht wie raus hier.
The Panzers now move for a rear shot. The mortar keeps up harassing fire. A lucky shot could stun the crew.
Противник предложил прекращение огня.
Kleese has taken the Presidium.
Stellungswechsel ausgeführt.
The BT-7M reappears. The crew abandon the vehicle and surrender.
Противник предложил прекращение огня.
The T-34 cooks off.
Truppe umgruppiert.
Gross from the Stug moves to cover.
Stellung eingenommen.
The Panzer has a rear shot at the KV-2. Hit. No effect. Gross Crownbuck frantically reloads. The KV-2's turret slowly traverses towards the Germans.
Es ist aus mit uns.
Another hit. No effect. The turret continues to traverse.
Truppe umgruppiert. Stellungswechsel ausgeführt.
Mortar harassing fire lands. The Panzer backs off.
Противник предложил прекращение огня.
Just in time. Cleese's infantry resume their probe. Meanwhile, the half-tracks advance.
Stellung eingenommen. Keine klare Schusslinie.
New plan. The Panzer IV will move around to the north and the Panzer 38T to the south. The Panzer 38T will play rabbit, moving fast to draw the KV-2's attention.
Противник предложил прекращение огня. Gebiet gesichert.
Спасайся, кто...
The KV-2 crew surrendered. Total victory. The Kremlin is ours. The battle ended because the Russians fled the battlefield. The Germans gained control of the area and the operation is over. The operation ended because the Russians routed. You, Herr von McDowell, gained 4 campaign points. Your strategic insight and tactical brilliance have proved superior once again. German losses were 5 wounded and 1 armoured vehicle destroyed, the Sturmgeschütz. Russian losses were 12 killed, 4 wounded, 9 prisoners, 3 tanks destroyed, the T-34, KV-1A and KV-2, 2 tanks captured, the KV-2 and BT-7M, and the 120mm mortar destroyed. Over the course of Operation Typhoon, the roads to Moscow, the German forces lost 5 killed, 9 wounded, 1 armoured vehicle destroyed, and 2 damaged. Russian forces lost 40 killed, 20 wounded, 15 prisoners, 6 tanks destroyed, 4 tanks captured, and 1 mortar destroyed. Where are we in the campaign? Total victory. Von McDowell has been promoted to second lieutenant, or Leutnant. German losses in the war so far amount to 8 killed, 14 wounded, 1 prisoner, 1 armoured vehicle destroyed, and 2 damaged. Russian losses in the campaign are 62 killed, 45 wounded, 25 prisoners, 6 tanks destroyed and 4 captured, and a mortar destroyed. Let's examine the Kampfgruppe. Kanonier Schutzmann from the 8.8cm anti-tank gun is awarded the War Merit Badge, as is Kanonier Baumann. A number of infantry. The first anti-tank gun accounted for 2 tanks and the mortar. The second anti-tank gun accounted for 1 tank. The 2 captured tanks are not credited. The history screen shows which soldiers have undertaken which campaigns. A medal here signifies the Kampfgruppe members from the Barbarossa campaign. Obersoldat Schubert and Soldat Ganz in the rifle infantry were seriously wounded by Russian mortar fire. Obergefreiter Siefke, Oberpanzerjäger Paderborner and Panzerjäger Elke in the Stug were all wounded by a shell fired from the KV-2. So, what did we learn? German doctrine emphasised putting anti-tank guns in or close to the front line so that enemy tanks would attack onto the guns. Using anti-tank guns was always preferable to attacking tanks with other tanks. Which is what happened here. Even with poor lines of sight, the anti-tank gunners were able to knock out a T-34, KV-1A, KV-2 and 120mm mortar. When the German armour attacked, the Stug was lost, although weight of numbers caused the BT-7M and KV-2 crews to abandon their vehicles and surrender. So, when possible, try and use anti-tank guns to defeat enemy armour. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and donate, and stay tuned for the next episode.